Hey everybody, welcome back. Mike from Spectre Comics. Today I'm doing another SketchUp creation video because I am in need for a new vehicle design for my next issue of Spectre Comics. So if you've seen any of my previous videos related to my comic making process, I've probably mentioned once or twice that I do use 3D SketchUp models for things that I do draw over and over again, such as buildings, ships, interior spaces, furniture, weapons, various things that I do draw over and over again. And the reason I do this is because it helps me keep consistent drawings from book to book, from page to page even. Also lets me rotate things in 3D space, kind of see what it looks like from various angles. And the most important reason why I do this is because it actually helps me speed up my process when I'm drawing. And I've also, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I've complained how long it takes me to actually finish my comics because I just don't have a lot of time to draw. So efficiency and time are big keys to speeding up the process, and building models in SketchUp helps me do that. So as I mentioned, I do need a new vehicle design, and the vehicle we're designing is an enemy hovercraft that is basically a patrol, but it not only patrols the land, it will also serve as a transport for prisoners. So the current issue of Spectre Comics, the one that basically issue 7, takes place on an asteroid, and the enemy is holed up on the asteroid, and the Spectre have just landed on the asteroid, and they are now making their way towards the mining facility to perform a rescue, basically. So without the enemy knowing they're coming, the enemy basically still patrol the grounds, make sure there are no enemies coming, and also if any of the current prisoners that work in the mining facility try to escape, these hovercrafts are doing a perimeter around the grounds and trying to make sure that nobody escapes. And if they do, this transport will bring them back to the mining facility. So that is the purpose of this vehicle. And before I even got to SketchUp, though, I started doing some sketches on what I think the design would look like. So I grabbed my sketchbook and I just started scribbling a bunch of ideas down, because before I even went to the model and I didn't really know what it was going to look like, I started to think on paper, you know, if I just do a bunch of scribbles, it'll give me some ideas of how to model this. So, but I originally conceived of this vehicle as kind of being like a futuristic looking police car, something where it'd be like a patrol car. And again, being on an asteroid, the idea of it being a hovercraft always appealed to me because the terrain is very rocky and unsmooth. There's no roads. It wouldn't make sense to do a vehicle that had wheels or tracks or anything like that. And to be honest with you, in my futuristic Spectre universe, I've never actually even drawn a vehicle that made contact with the ground. Everything was either a spaceship or a hovercraft or something that flew around. So the same idea was influenced here to keep this vehicle to be a hovercraft. But as I said before, as I started sketching this kind of patrol car, futuristic police patrol car kind of idea, where there would be 2 Ori sitting up front. The Ori are the enemy in the Spectre Comics in these issues. 2 Ori sitting up front, kind of doing their patrol, and then basically like 2 seats in the back, which would act kind of like a police car with the prisoners sitting in the back. But I didn't really like this idea. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like I wasn't really pushing the boundaries of my creativity. And so I scrapped that whole idea and I tried to come up with all these different designs of this kind of police car concept, and it didn't really work for me. So I started really pushing the boundaries of what this should look like. I wanted it to be intimidating looking. I wanted it to be flexible. I wanted it to kind of transform a bit, have different features on it that would do various things. And I started coming up with this idea, and I'll put the sketch up that I originally used for this design up on the screen. The idea of a disc-shaped hovercraft kind of came in my mind, but it wouldn't be a seated vehicle. There, you know, basically it would be like a skiff, like a platform you'd stand up on. You'd basically control, you'd be able to look in 360 degrees if you were on patrol. But then I wanted it to look intimidating. So I thought, what if I put these kind of spikes that kind of came off the sides of it, kind of pointed towards the ground, so that if you were hovering above, it would look intimidating from below. And then the idea of these arms coming out, these extensions that would be able to move up and down and out to kind of have these cannons on the end and would basically be able to fire at the enemies. I kind of was thinking of Jabba's sail barge with these kind of shades and canopies above. back from Return to the Jedi. So all these ideas were kind of flooding into my head, and I thought, okay, this is great, but how do I transport prisoners in a vehicle designed like this? So I started thinking about, well, I did want the vehicle to be flexible. It is a hovercraft. It can raise and lower its elevation at will. I thought, well, maybe at the bottom of the hovercraft, a little disc could kind of descend, and this disc would basically create a cylinder, which could be kind of like a hold on this hovercraft. The hold would be, once the dish descended, basically create a force field in a cylinder, and that is where the prisoners would be transported by. And then I started thinking, well, how do they get into this cylinder? The idea with the arms extended out with these cannons on the end, I'm saying, well, maybe I don't want the arms to fire. They're not trying to kill anybody, but the arms could fire a beam at the prisoners if they've escaped, and it would basically beam them, transport them right into the hold. So it would be almost instantaneous. And based on the story, and I didn't have the design of the ship at the time, but based on the story that I'd come up with, that's exactly what happens. I did not, at the end of this issue, and I don't want to spoil anything, two of the Spectre disappear, and the idea is that they disappeared in a flash of light. And I thought, oh, this is brilliant. This actually lines up with my story perfectly, and fits this vehicle design as well. So it really started to come together with how the ship should work, not only just function. So when I'm thinking about how things are designed, you also try to tell the story with your design, like what's it actually doing? And that's what I did here. And that's why the idea of this kind of hovercraft with all these like devices and extensions and transformations and abilities really helps move the story along. And again, falls right into place with the kind of the story that I originally conceived when I was writing Spectre Comics. So I kind of took this design and started working on it in SketchUp. And what I did find is that because of all the various curved elements that are in this, it was a lot harder to model than I thought it would be. It actually took me quite a while. So we've actually sped up the creation video in the background so you can see what it looks like. And unfortunately, I actually lost a segment of my modeling. Designing and building a lot of the pieces in this SketchUp model, I didn't actually get some of it because the video got corrupted for some reason. So I wasn't going to go back to the beginning and rebuild it. But you can kind of see the beginning and some of the middle and then the end of the design in this video. And as we're working through it, I mean, you'll see me adding things, a lot of various curved surfaces. Because I went to the online version of SketchUp, and I don't know if the paid version that you can download, like the SketchUp Pro version, actually allows you to continue to work like you used to, but I actually lost the ability to move something a certain dimension, specific dimension, or copy using the shift, holding down the shift key with the move tool. I used to use those little shortcuts all the time. Now I have to copy to a clipboard. Now I kind of have to guesstimate how long a line is or how much I offset a box. So that made this a little frustrating and a little more challenging as I'm kind of trying to use the cloud version of SketchUp. Now again, it's a great tool, but now I feel like it can't be as specific as I want to be with when I'm designing. So I did have a little stumbling blocks using the online version of SketchUp, but it worked out, and I think the 3D model actually came together quite well. It looks good, and it actually meets the design intent. Now, some of the things that I did try to model, such as all the spikes that came down on the side of the ship, I wanted a lot more of those. And then, because it was so challenging and I wasn't able to rotate things and copy them as I was rotating, like I used to be able to do when I had the downloaded version of SketchUp, that made it more challenging. So I just basically put 2 in the front and 2 in the back. And then I was thinking through the design of that, what it actually allows me to do is the 4 spikes now can actually become landing spikes. There's no retractable landing gear on this hovercraft, so when it is not moving, these 4 little spikes, and again, the bottom cylinder hold would obviously retract back up into the bottom of the ship. Those 4 spikes now act as basically landing gear for this canopy. You'll also notice that I have a large cylinder in the middle of the ship towards the top, and those allow the arms to roll around up and down, and obviously there's a little ball joint at the basically the elbow of those arms that allow it to pivot in various directions. And that is to, if there's multiple enemies or prisoners roaming the land or prisoners out there, I can have two targeted at the same time and zap them in the hold. The hold is not that big, so two prisoners based on their size is about the limit. And it does fit, that still does fit within the parameters of the story that I've created for Spectre Comics issue 7. So one of the things that I actually did was I took this model and I put it in the larger model that I built of the whole Ori mining facility. So I've actually shown that in the video, but I'll show it here as well with the hovercraft placed in that model. You'll see the factory, you'll see the land, you'll see how the factory is built into the side of a mountain, which I basically took an image of a mountain range and I kind of just tilted it back to make it look like the Ori mining facility was built right into the side of a mountain with the tower that looks out, and then there's the landing transport where they bring the prisoners from other worlds to this secret asteroid where the Ori are putting people to work in the mines. So this is what the final model looks like. This is what it looks like in the context of the Ori mining facility. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed the process of modeling in SketchUp. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions or comments on this model. Thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.